All right, we're live for another episode of Keeping It Real. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Jeff Manson. I'm a Hawaii and California real estate broker and also founder of Real Geeks. My co-host is Frank Klesitz. He's the CEO of Vyral Marketing. And my third host and guest, recurring guest and good friend is Greg Harrelson. And he's a real estate broker, owns a few companies there in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, Charleston. So if you have any referrals and you appreciate all the great stuff that Greg has been sharing, please send them some referrals, okay? All right. Frank, can you let them know how to follow? Oh, today's topic is going to be the truth about lead quality. So we're going to be going over the truth about lead quality, online lead quality, and just all lead quality, but the truth about it and the real story behind what's going on there.
Yeah. So we tell them where to go. Jeff, sound good?
Yeah, tell them where to go.
KeepingItReal.com. If you guys want like an absolute education on how to crush real estate, go back to our original episode from, gosh, when, Jeff? 14?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe I don't know. It's been 4 or 5 years.
Episode, watch them all. You will be trained as a top-level agent from some of the most brilliant minds in real estate. These interviews that Jeff and I have been fortunate to bring you at KeepingItReal.com. You can also go to the Real Geeks YouTube channel, watch them there. Go to the Real Geeks Facebook page; they're posted there. But also on iTunes, you actually go to iTunes and you can subscribe to the podcast so you get push notifications. I also want to say is if you put your email address in at KeepingItReal.com to get notified of the show, those are the only emails you're going to get is about the show.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and if you're liking it and you go on YouTube, go ahead and give us some stars. You know, rate the show, because I know there's a lot of people downloading and listening to it, but if you're really appreciating what we're producing and how we're helping you, go ahead and give us some stars. We'd really love it. So Greg, like I said, is in Myrtle Beach, and his team in Myrtle Beach sells around 3,000 homes a year. And he's been in the business a long time. He's been a long time Real Geeks customer and become a close friend. So Greg, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it. And I know our followers do too. They love you.
Yeah, I have a great time doing this. Like you said, Frank was talking about, you can get a whole education. I mean, I don't know how many people have shared feedback about the Keeping It Real videos. And like, people have literally said, okay, those videos has been my coaching program. Right. And they've really built their business off of what they've learned. So let's see if we can continue that process and give some people some gold nuggets that they can take away from this video also.
All right, well, let's start grinding down the different aspects and levels about the truth about lead quality. You know, the first thing I want to ask you is, how does your response time determine the quality of the lead?
Well, before I maybe address that question, I would like to think of what goes on in our minds. What's our mindset that causes us to actually think a lead is good or not, a lead is not good. So, and I am answering this question, but I think this question is a much deeper question. See, speed to lead we know is important. The challenge is like, if we don't respond very fast to the lead, then statistically speaking, there's a lower chance or probability that we'll ever get in touch with that lead. The more time that goes by, the less likely we'll get in touch with them. So if you don't respond fast to the lead, time goes by, you start to actually get into touch with fewer leads, then you immediately say, oh, these leads are terrible, they never call me back. You see, like, so that's how speed to lead affects the quality. I actually believe it doesn't technically affect the quality. The quality is more of a fixed situation. As I said at one point a moment ago before we came on the show, you know, forget the whole conversation about lead quality. It's people quality. The people who we're capturing are just people. Okay. And the quality of those people is a constant. Like, it is what it is. But how long it takes for us to get back to them will determine how many of them we actually engage with. And then when we look at, we generated 10 and we only talked to 3, then we're saying, God, the rest of those, these 7 were just terrible quality. Not true. If you actually had a faster response time, maybe you would have talked to 8 out of 10, and then you would have said only 2 of them were poor quality. So that's how I think the two things correlate.
Great. And then I know before we were getting on too, and you had posted that in the keeping it, or I'm sorry, the Real Geeks Mastermind.
Yeah.
You posted like 3 levels of leads and the real cost of leads. Can you kind of go over that? Because I think that's really will help people get a better understanding about, you know, the truth about lead quality and the different levels and cost actually.
Yeah, so I think that there's three factors in associating a cost to a lead. There is the cost of generating the lead. So if you were doing PPC and your lead cost is $15 a lead, you're doing Zillow and it's $80, $100 a lead, or you're prospecting and you're making outbound calls and you got to factor in your time. There's the cost associated with generating the lead. But I think that that's only one cost to generating the lead. Then there's a cost of being too slow to respond to the lead. Okay. See, like if I was to get 10 leads today and those leads on average cost $50, then it's $500 to get $500 to actually to capture those leads. But if I'm slow to respond, then what ends up happening is I only get 2 of those 10 people on the phone or 3 on those phone. Now there's a cost. What is the cost? The cost is the opportunity cost. Because if I only got 3 of those people on the phone because I responded slowly, if I would have responded faster, I might have got 8 of them on the phone. And so I lost 5. I paid for 5 and I actually didn't get any kind of return off of that. See, that was the speed to lead was too slow, and that added additional cost associated to the lead, which is called opportunity cost. And then the third one is, and I think this is a significant cost, is even when we do get them on the phone, we don't follow up frequently enough with them. So we know that we have to have multiple conversations with these leads before we convert them to appointments, convert them to transactions. And I think we lose a lot of financial opportunity by not following up enough. And then our competitors get in and start getting into conversation with them. How do our competitors get into conversations? We take too long to follow up. Too much time goes by before we follow up. They sign up and get captured in someone else's system. Someone else is out pounding them like 5 times a day, gets them on the phone, and they wedge their way into our relationship, right? And that's what I call an interception. Like it's like we thought we were in the game, like we're running to catch the ball, and we think that we're going to catch it. All we got to do is call them back, and then all of a sudden we call them back, the ball's not there. And so we lost the opportunity because we didn't follow up. There's a cost associated to the lead, or there's a cost associated to poor lead follow-up. There's a cost associated to responding to slow, and there's a cost associated to capturing the lead. And I would say the biggest cost is poor lead follow-up. The second biggest cost is a failure to respond fast enough. And the least cost associated to this whole picture here is actually the cost of the lead. The cost of the lead is the cheapest component. The challenge is, and I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not actually talking to anybody. I'm talking to everybody, including my team and myself. The challenge is we have to blame the lead quality in order to justify our inaction and our inability to actually run a business properly. And I know that that's a very strong kind of in-your-face type of comment, but I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur, and these are the things that we need to face and we need to take care of. We can't change the lead quality or the people quality, but what we can change is the quality of our actions, and that's when our return on our investment shoot through the roof.
Right. So it's fine. We're keeping it real. That's why we call it keeping it real.
No, that's true. That's right.
And we need to be very real with everybody. So really, the biggest cost is the lack of follow-up or good time management or work ethic, what have you, as people are not taking it serious. So throwing money out with leads, hoping that, you know, some of those leads will probably reach out to them, like many agents do, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to set a plan, I'm going to follow it, I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to be aggressive, and I'm going to be persistent.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm convinced I could take every Real Geeks database in America and actually generate more leads than most people think that they actually have. It's not the people. And I say people, meaning it's not the lead quality. It's our action quality. This is all on us, the real estate professional. We are the absolute cause of technology coming in and taking advantage of this situation. We are the cause of it.
Well, let's go a little bit deeper on that. You have Zillow, which the CEO said, if I'm quoting this correctly, maybe you can correct me, Jeff or Greg, but 50% of the people who opted in at Zillow, and these are from premier paying agents,
yes,
leads, 50% of those leads never even got a call.
Yes.
And it was affecting the Zillow brand. That's why they got into the we're going to do the calling for you now, and the call posts have moved. You have the same thing with Realtor.com getting into the calling. Everyone's getting into the calling. Mm-hmm. Even at Vyral, we're getting into we call your clicks for you. We're getting into the calling business. And what's really insightful, there's a mortgage company that specializes in online leads. They call the leads 50 times in 10 days to get a contact. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to hear for the agent watching, how do you compete with all these professionals getting in with this lead follow-up? And how are you responsive from like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night? Like what do you recommend to the agent as far as like speed to lead? Are you just on call, 60 hours a week that you have to respond? Is there a system? And let's talk about actually getting back to the lead first.
I think part of that just comes to lack of having a schedule and following up. And then, as they start growing and start doing more business, I don't know, it may be different in some markets. Maybe it's 20 or 50. At a certain point, you need to get an assistant, be doing all the paperwork and all the busy work that you like to say that you're, that's keeping you busy. Really don't need to be doing that. You can pass that on to make yourself more available and more proactive. Wouldn't you say so, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all. I agree with everything you said. But but to speak on it a little bit more, Frank, I say what you just mentioned. We really screwed this one up. We really screwed this one up because there was a time where we thought like, oh my God, it's so hard to generate leads, and then some company came around and like they generated leads for us. Let's call it Zillow, Realtor.com, or somebody else. So obviously it wasn't that hard, right? It's just somebody actually wasn't making excuses for not being able to do it. They actually just took action and made it damn happen. And then the next thing, now that we got people generating leads, we're sitting here saying, oh my gosh, the lead quality is so bad. Well, then we're getting feedback from the lead company saying, well, the lead quality is bad. Well, how would you even know, Mr. or Mrs. Real Estate Agent? You're not even calling 50% of them back. And then all of a sudden they says, okay, just like we had a lead problem, they solved it. Now we have a lead quality problem. And the technology companies know that we don't have a lead quality issue in the industry. Now they know that the agents think they do, but they know we don't have lead quality issues. What they think is that we have human, like real estate practitioner issues, that we're not doing our job as well as we need to do it. So therefore now they're going to take on that piece. And it's just going to continue if we don't take charge of our businesses and be responsible. It'll just continue. We're the start of it, and we can be the stop of it. Maybe we can't reverse what's going on right now, but we could actually prevent the next thing from happening if we step up. But that's each one of us having to take responsibility for our businesses, which as an industry, it seems like we have a hard time doing. Now, Frank, you said, what the heck do we do about it? Well, so one of the issues that I see is when you start talking about this company's making 50 contacts, that's fantastic. And they're scaling, and they're probably they probably got millions of lead flow coming in that they're doing that on. So the individual agent is not going to have to do that. They're not going to have millions of leads that they have to do that. So I think what's going to happen is the real estate agent better get better at speed to lead. They better get better at follow-up. They better get better at servicing. They better get better at being able to demonstrate value in the first conversation. They better get better at becoming an expert in a particular area so it doesn't require as many leads. See, right now it requires us to have so many leads to get a deal because we don't apply the right actions to it. If we actually throttle down the number of leads throttle up our personal attempts to reach them, we won't need as many leads. Now, all of that's going to have to be scheduled. So there's a few ways. I mean, you can, there's teams out there that are doing it with ISAs. Unfortunately, every time you have to hire an ISA, you got to take on more management and more this. But that has been one of the solutions out there. Another solution is for the agent to just put it in their schedule, like 4 or 5 different times during the day to reach out and make calls. But then they can use Jeff's workflow to also go ahead and hit them by email and hit them by text. So, what we have to do is we have to adopt some technologies that allow us to have more bandwidth. So we need, while we make 3 calls right now and then we go on an appointment, while we're on an appointment, some other technology needs to be either emailing them or texting them, like through the workflow. And then when we get back, we need to make another call. So there are ways that we can do it, but it requires us to get organized. Now, the technology companies don't think we're ever going to do it. They don't. They're so excited that they're like, okay, all the agents have to do is look at what we're doing. They could do the same thing, but it requires people to actually step up and work day in and day out to get this done. And that's a tough thing to ask, the entire industry.
Right. And so we're saying that we have a problem, and the problem is, the industry as a whole, not any one specific agent, not following up, not doing all that. How does mindset come into that? I mean, as far as conversion rate, and then if you're telling yourself these leads suck or whatever, I mean, what's your take on that, Greg?
Yeah, so I think we talked about that. It's like how does mindset affect the quality of lead? And let's just say how does our mindset impact our perceived quality of the lead? Okay, because see, we tend to speak in truths, and we don't know the darn truth. Like, we haven't talked to them, but because we haven't talked to them, we say it's a bad lead, it's a dead lead, unresponsive, low quality. And we speak of it as it's a truth. Because then it's truth that they're not a good lead. But the reality is that when you start to think something's, as soon as you've made your 3 attempts, 4 attempts, however you make. And let me tell you, if you don't get somebody on the phone in the first 5 minutes, go ahead and be prepared. You're gonna have to make 8 attempts to get them back, to get them ever. So just factor that into your schedule. So let's just say that you made your first attempt within 3 minutes or a couple minutes, and maybe you made another attempt in 10 minutes. You didn't get them on the phone. Right then at that moment, a lot of times we're like, man, these people, they go out and they say they want to talk to us, and then they never pick up the phone. They're not responding. Well, the truth is, it could be that they're busy right now. But what did we say about it? We said it. We made up our own truth, and our truth was the quality's not good. So once you plant that, when that seed starts to grow in your mind, then the number of attempts that you're going to make on that lead go down significantly. I mean, because why would you ever attempt to call them again if the lead is so bad? Why would you ever attempt to call a dead lead? Why would you ever attempt to call a lead that won't call you back? See, the way that the thoughts about the what you make up about the lead will determine the activities you actually put towards that lead. So we've got to make sure that we don't discount leads. We got to stop talking about dead leads and bad leads and lead quality, and understand these are just people, and our job is to get in touch with them. And the more people we talk to, the more business we'll do. That's just the name of the game.
Well, it's all the negative self-talk. So all the negative self-talk, like you said, is going to cause you not to call these leads. And then when you finally get them on a call, because you've had so much negative self-talk, the minute they have the any kind of inkling to get off or give you some sort of instinct no or reflex no, all of a sudden you start telling yourself, yep, they suck, right?
Yeah.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I can follow that. I can see what you're saying there. It's like, okay, I get a lead, I call them, within a second, I double dial them, they don't pick up the phone, I text them, they don't respond. And then, and then I okay, I'm going to come back in, and the afternoon I'm going to call, and I call them again and I get them. And then all of a sudden says, okay, who is this again? I'm right in the middle of something. Can I call you back? And then at that point, then your mind's like, oh my God, I tried this hard to get them on the phone, and now they won't even give me the time of day. This lead sucks. I'm never calling them again. This is real stuff here we're talking about. Like, I want everyone to know, though, this is real stuff that we can correct in our offices, because every bit of this conversation so far is our actions or our inactions. It's our positive thoughts or it's our negative thoughts. It's our perceptions. It's the stories we're telling. Nobody is actually influencing anything about this conversation except the real estate agent themselves. We just got to understand, you know, if you have a recorder, if we could record people's thoughts about leads, it would probably be a pretty negative conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of it's just attitude and approach, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right. And
I think that's a lot of what we're talking about here, is the attitude and approach that we're taking, and understanding that your attitude affects your approach, and your approach affects your result. But in order for us to really grasp that, we have to accept responsibility that the result starts with our attitude.
Right. And
like
can you
we have to, it's almost like we have to say, surrender. Look, your lead quality is likely more associated with your attitude and your approach than the actual people on the other side.
Right. And I was going to ask both these questions, but I'm going to kind of throw it a little bit differently. Is what do you think is more important, how you're communicating or what you're saying on the call? I was going to hit both those topics.
Yeah,
but
that's so. I believe the words is probably the least effective. So when you say that question, how you're communicating, you know, I immediately, and I don't know this is where you're going, but I immediately think of voice inflection, tonality, sincerity, you know, the essence of the communication, the energy of the communication, without getting too deep into energy and things like that. So when you say communicating, that's what I think of. And then you've got what you're saying, which is the words that you're saying, right? And so I am a strong believer that the words have way less value to effective communication than the way that you're communicating. And if I was going to say one thing about communication, and if I was to say, well, there's a few things within the way you need to communicate. If I could say one of the most important things, I believe, is this: it's not how you communicate, it's how you listen. Because how you listen is the most powerful form of communication. And so when we start looking at communication versus words, it's communications to me is way more important.
Right. And yeah, great. All right. What do you have to contribute there, Frank?
Oh, lots of questions I'm watching on the newsfeed.
Okay. Are you? Do you want to start hitting some questions, or are there some other things that you wanted to dig out deeper, or anything that you wanted to cover?
So many things. Okay.
Okay.
So one of the first things is, I think, you know, for the single agent or maybe with an assistant, you know, being available to respond within 3 minutes, you know, almost to the point now where it's darn near 24 hours a day in some respects, right? My first question would be, is what advice do you have to that person that really wants to be able to respond that quickly, but again, as in a listing appointment or, you know, other things come up besides just hiring an assistant? And probably the second question to follow up with that is, what are your thoughts, maybe any outsourced services or technology that assists with that? So let's talk about how to solve the problem for your typical agent watching this on responding within a few minutes. Let's go deeper on that.
Yeah. So number one, there's going to be some spillage. Okay. Because if you're a single agent and you're not going to be you're not an operator, right? You're an agent. You're not an operator. So an operator who would be paid X amount of hours a day to sit there and man a phone, that's not who we are as real estate agents. We have to go in different places and do different things. So if you're actually generating leads and you cannot predict when those leads are going to actually come in, then there is going to be some spillage. It's just a fact. There's going to be some spillage. So it's important to not make that spillage wrong. And so, in other words, if there's going to be a factor of spillage, and that's not going to be because of the lead quality, that's going to be because of your schedule. And I stress that because we always make it lead quality. And then we get a little twisted, and then we don't set up the right system. So that's number one. Accept the fact that there's going to be some losses. There's going to be some spillage, and it has nothing to do with lead quality. Then what you got to do is, every CRM has some sort of drip system. Now, drip systems, unfortunately, are being used. The CRMs with drip systems, the byproduct of those great systems that have been built is it makes a lazy agent, because they're like, okay, it went in there. I don't have time to make a call right now. Well, if you had time to say, I don't have time, you could have actually just dialed the damn number right then at that minute. But I don't have a time to make the call right now. And I know I feel the comfort of it being in my drip system. And therefore, now all leads go through the drip system. And the drip system's not going to be the best way to convert. You need to still stick in there manually as much as you can. And then when you can't be there manually, allow the drip system, whichever one you use, to take place, to start actually working those leads. But when you get back, don't let the drip system just keep going and going and going and say, okay, well, it's in my drip system. I'll wait for them to call me. You actually go in and still make the calls. It comes down to, and Frank, I've been saying this for 20 plus years, way longer than I met you. We're not going to get away from the outbound call. We're not going to get away from the outbound call. We're not going to get away from prospecting. We're not going to get away from it. And we tried, and guess what?
All the companies came in and
all the companies came in and took over the prospecting for us. And now they're charging us a premium. So we're not going to get away. We're just not going to get away from it. So get into it. The single agent, you need to go ahead and put a few hours during your day to be able to go in and follow up these people. If you can't take the call because you're on an appointment, make sure that thing is not sitting in a voicemail. Make sure it's routed into some CRM, and that CRM is doing some sort of connection, contacting and engaging with them, and just to kind of fill the gap of time from when you get back into the office or off that appointment and go make that call. And I think that right there will change a lot of people's business, because they're not making that call. Once it gets to the CRM, people are not making that call.
So
yes. So the key here is to make sure that you're doing the technology, but you're only using it to fill the gap and further incubate it. But you still got to get in there and make those calls and do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, we don't want to use the technology to replace us. We want to use it to, I've been talking a lot about on podcasts and about increasing our bandwidth. We need to use technology to help us increase our bandwidth, but not to replace us. And increasing our bandwidth is where we can when we're doing something else, these things are still being worked. I mean, that's important.
Yeah. Frank. So much. So let's talk about now getting people to actually answer the phone. So as lead comes in, let's just assume there's a phone number. But you call. I mean, what's the number of recommended times you tell an agent before they give up on the lead? Do you have a number for that for your agents, Craig?
About 15.
15 times.
Yeah. And here's what I know, Frank. I mean, I know this. Okay. I mean, because I've tracked it on a large sampling of leads.
So it's statistically significant advice you're giving us, Craig.
One, absolutely proven in my operations with thousands and thousands of contacts. Okay. And so I know this, that probably 30% of the time, let's just go with 10 leads, probably 30% of the time, you're going to get them within the first 5 minutes. And then out of the 7 that you didn't get, it's going to take statistically around 8 to 9 more attempts before you get them on the phone on average. I know it.
That's to get all the remaining 7.
Yeah.
What's the time frame, would you say, of those 7 attempts?
That's such an important question, because I do know that, and I'm glad, because it is important. 3 days.
Wow.
3 days.
There's some good advice, everyone, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and that's right there. Doesn't necessarily have to be. Let's just say it's 8 contacts. It doesn't have to just be phone calls. That could be a combination of text and phone calls and emails. It's going to take on average 8 more attempts. And I believe nowadays it takes attempts from multiple channels. They need to see you, in the email. They need to see that text. They need to see that phone call. And I tell you what people are not getting angry because we're making that many attempts. People are actually appreciating that we're showing to them how important they are to us. That's what we're finding. Like, we're finding out that these people are not, they're apologizing. Hey, I'm sorry you had to make so many attempts to get a hold of me. I've been really busy. Like, that's what we're getting. And I know an agent probably has a fear of making too many attempts because they're bothering them. But when we started doing this within the office, it changed the game. And what was most impressive, because it was unexpected, was that we probably have more people happy than we have people upset because we tried to reach them so many times.
And Greg, are you doing on the first try, if you call them and you get voicemail or whatever, or if they don't pick up, are you hanging up, waiting
We're doing double dial text. That's what we're gonna do. Double dial text. Yeah, call. That's just old Chris Smith did the double dial, right? I remember seeing him, and he talked about doing a double dial, which is you dial them, and then they don't pick up, don't leave a message, hang up, and then dial them right back. If you do a double dial, I bet you get 15 to 20% increased answer rate, because they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know who this is, but they're calling me twice. It must be important. So they just pick up. So you're going to get a 20% bump right there. And then if they don't pick up, leave a voicemail and then do a text. And then from that standpoint, now you're going to pick up a few more people. And then the remaining people is where you've got to figure out what is your schedule the rest of the day, when you're going to be able to fit them in. And if you're not going to be able to fit in some additional calls, then you need to pump them into some automated system to go ahead and make the attempts for you.
Yeah, so don't be afraid of the double dial. People don't generally get mad. Lisa Chinati actually shared with us when we all had the mastermind meeting here in Dallas at the Real Geeks headquarters, and Greg was there. Her team does triple dial, right, Greg?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does a great job at it.
So
that's great. Okay, so let's address this a little bit. Incomplete contact information. Any thoughts on that? What do you do?
Like, so we get a sign up on our website or something, and they're missing a
email address, and then the phone number is 555555.
Yeah, again, there's going to be some spillage, but there's plenty of systems out there, like the Spokios, like the People Finders. There's so many different systems out there where you can cross-reference. If you've got one data point, like a name, or you've got an email address, then a lot of times you can reverse into a phone number, or a phone number reverse into into an email address. The reality is that we're not going to have 100% great data. But these are all just statistics that over time are so insignificant, right? It's just like, you get 100 leads and 15 of them have incomplete data. Well, then you just run your ratios off of the 85 actually leads that you got, that you really got. But somebody showed me a technique one time, and holy cow, it was the most basic, obvious technique. Is like, if you got an email address, somebody gives you an email address and not a telephone number, because that seems to be the telephone number a lot of times might be the one that they leave out the most. Just remember, if you got an email address and you have an iPhone and they have an iPhone, which you wouldn't be able to predict, you can actually just put the email address in your text and text them, and it actually texts them through iMessage. So their email address, a lot of times, because so many people have iPhones, their email address, actually, you can text them to that email address. And that's something that everyone can start doing tomorrow. And they're like, well, and then when they respond, sometimes they respond and you actually see their number. But if you don't see their number and they're responding, well, now you're in a text conversation. You're way more likely to convert that lead when you get engaged via text versus just sending them emails. So that would be a quick little tip that everyone can actually start doing today when it comes to incomplete data.
Yeah, and I think we also need to stop worrying about the leads that don't have correct information or put in some fake information. Just disregard those and focus on the good ones and following up and doing a better job there. Quit letting that ruin your day, or saying these leads suck. You start telling yourself the leads suck.
See, there's the mind again. Right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh man, I there's so many leads, they don't even give me. And when we go down the path of a negative perception, we make it way more negative than it really is. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, these leads, we make statements like this. No one seems to give me like their telephone number. That is not true. If I go into every database, there are databases there that sometimes they got complete information, sometimes they got incomplete information, but we don't say that. We say, gosh, I mean, no one seems to be giving us good information anymore. Like everyone's putting Mickey Mouse in there. That's not true. But that's what we say. And then when we say that, then we're justified for not coming back in the office, pulling up our damn CRM and making calls today. We are actually secretly sabotaging ourselves and we're not even aware of it. So as a leader in my company, these are the things that I'm looking at. I lead my company in a different way. I mean, you know, I don't know if what I'm saying is true or untrue, right or wrong, but I believe everything I've said to you on this video. And everything I've said to you on this video, I actually lead the company. And these are the conversations we have, which is completely like different than most conversations that are going on in the industry. But there is a reason why we're getting such good results, because we're actually doing things that are being done differently than what the industry is doing. I mean, I'm sitting here talking about, do not say the word dead lead, because dead lead just means they're dead to you. It doesn't mean that they're not alive in some other website. So it's a dead lead needs to be more labeled as a re-engagement opportunity. It needs to be a re-engagement, process needs to put on all those people that we call dead. So if you actually changed your dead lead category to re-engagement opportunity as the label versus dead as a label, would you not respond differently to that database? Answer is yeah. Just changing the damn label to a re-engagement opportunity versus dead, and then all of a sudden see that would be your attitude. But see, when you change your attitude and you do what I just said, you'll change your approach, and guess what? You're going to actually get better results.
To add to that, if you only have like someone's email address, Jeff, I found your phone number from your email address.
You did?
I did. Let me show everyone here.
There you go. All the time. All the time.
So
You're going to show everybody my phone number?
Oh yeah, you better not do that, Frank.
Come on, Frank. Don't do that to me.
Yeah. I'm going to write it. I'm going to write somebody. If you show it, somebody's going to write it on a bathroom wall. I swear.
Oh, it's there. And the names of all your kids and where you live.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Frank.
But Greg, a little bit, not so much. I'm there too. My website that I choose is called Pipl. PIPL.com. Go Google an email address. Go put your email address in there and see what shows up. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
PIP what?
PIPL.com.
Cool.
Pipl. Yep.
Well, Frank, I see you smiling over there.
I'm just looking at all the information that Jeff is publicly available that I want to share. But I'm not going to do it.
I hope you're not doing my stuff. All right.
Well, no, I'm just saying. It's just that
you're not posting it in the comments, are you?
I'm not posting in the comments.
Okay, all right.
I'm just saying that's the website, pipl.com. If there's an email address you have of someone, type it in there, and once you go type in their email addresses and see what's available. That's all.
Got it. Okay.
So, all right. What else? What else do we want to talk about lead conversion? I don't know. I guess my next question would be when do you just give up? I mean, I got a 0 credit score and no money. Credit score is terrible. They have no money. I don't even want to buy or sell a home.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point you probably give up on the lead.
100%. Look, we're not in the business of talking people into buying and selling. That's not our business. We're in the business of finding people who that are interested in buying and selling, and then convincing them that we're the right person to help them manage that transaction. So when you're talking with people and you're asking them good questions, and Frank, I'm asking you, so when do you plan on, ideally, when do you think you're going to want to purchase a property? And then you respond, well, I was just looking on the internet. I mean, I'm not even thinking about. Oh, well, no. You want to kind of play that with me a little bit, Frank? We'll just.
Yeah, like I'm just a bad lead.
Yeah, just role play it. Frank, hey, I just want to touch base with you, just see how I can help you. I see that you requested some information, and just see how I could help you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to afford a home someday.
Yeah, okay, good. So, are you currently renting right now in the area?
We are renting.
Yeah. And so realistically, I mean, what kind of time frame do you think it'll be before you want to kind of transition from renting to actually home ownership and start building some equity for yourself?
Oh, I don't know, man. I'd love to be able to buy a home, but my credit score is shot. That's why we're renting.
Really? Yeah. So tell me this. I mean, how bad is it?
475.
Really? Wow. Now, most people don't know the exact number. Did you just recently talk to a lender?
No, I haven't. I haven't talked to a lender in a while.
Yeah. So do you know it's 475 or are you just afraid it's 475?
It's like my weight. I don't want to look at it.
I got it. Hey, I'm with you on that one. I tell you what I'm going to do. You know, I mean, there are some fantastic opportunities for people like you who are renting to be able to move into home ownership. And there's some great loan products out there that are really geared towards helping people like yourself. I've got a specialist who specializes in helping people that are in your situation. I'm going to go ahead and have them send you a text or give you a call. Would you at least take a few minutes to talk to them and just see what you could afford?
I mean, I would. I've always wanted to own a home. I just thought I never could.
Yeah, cool. Well, hey, I don't know that you can, so I won't make any promises, but I will promise to connect you to the right people that can either share with you that you can, or maybe even talk to you about what you'd have to do over the next 12 months in order to put yourself in a position to have to own a home. Does that sound good?
That sounds really good. That's probably a good idea. I haven't even thought about it until this conversation came up, to be honest with you.
Got it. So what in that, not all of them, you could have said other things, Frank, to me that I'd been like, hey, well, look, I wish you the best of luck. And, I don't think that I can help you right now, but I wish you the best of luck. Keep me in mind if there's anything, if anything ever changes.
I think a lot of people, if they were to hear like such a terrible credit score and their rent's like, next.
Yeah, it's called attitude.
But you took that next 2 millimeter shift and said, maybe there's something here because he still has a motivation to own a home.
I didn't call you, you called me. Okay. So obviously you didn't, I wouldn't imagine somebody that has a terrible credit score. You didn't have to call me. Remember, you get to look on the internet at all these properties for free. You didn't have to call me. You actually took the extra step already knowing that you had that credit score. So I believe right there that if you're willing to, in today's age when we value time so much, if you're willing to take the extra step and start engaging with me, then I have to think that there's some sort of desire there. But I also have to be careful on my own time. So when I start to see that there could be a slight issue here, then I am going to then shift them to the specialist for that particular issue, which in this dialogue would have been the lender.
Got it. I think if we should shift. How many sellers are in the buyer leads that come online? A lot.
Well, yeah.
If they own a home.
Let's talk about that. So when we're talking about scripting and asking questions, but so many times we're not going deep enough.
Yes.
And we're assuming that they're all buyer leads and looking for homes.
And here's the main problem. When you're assuming they're a buyer, you start treating them like a buyer. And if they're a seller, you're going to miss out because they got a home to sell. Wouldn't you agree, Greg, that if you treat them like a buyer, but they have a home to sell, you're probably going to miss out because they got to list their home before they can buy in most cases?
Yeah, I mean, what happens a lot of times with agents is they don't identify that they actually have a property to sell, and then they're wondering why that the buyer who's asking great questions about other properties are really not wanting to go look at properties yet, or I don't know if ready to look at a property yet. Could be a sign that it like that dialogue will happen. Agent gets a lead, agent talks to the lead, and they say, oh, I just wanted some information. I'm not sure if I'm really ready to go start looking. Well, that could mean I'm not ready to start looking because I have a home to sell. Like, we miss that cue. That's where the listening comes into play. Like, why did you call me if you're not sure you're really thinking about, you're not really ready to go have a conversation or to look at property? That when I hear that, I need to say, okay, well, no problem. And I'm just kind of curious. I mean, where do you currently own? Like, you need to make an assumption that they own. We should not be asking, do you have a home to sell? No. Because they're going to, like, their guard's going to go up and they're going to say, oh, no, I'm not thinking about selling. Their guard's going to go up. So don't ask that question. You would ask a question more like this, Jeff, I'm just kind of curious, like, where do you own right now?
Oh, over in Highland Park.
Yeah, perfect. So now I know you own, right? Because that would be, it's more natural. I've made an assumption that you own, and then I'm just asking where. I'm more likely to pull out an address or an area. I'm more likely to pull out that you own. And I did it in a non-salesy, just a conversational way. Now, here's another thing. Now that I know that you're a buyer and you're an owner, I'm going to be able to provide a much better value to you because now I got a better understanding of you. And then I can say, you know, okay, well, look, I'm just kind of curious. Now, you're already looking at properties in this particular area. You have something in Highland. I suspect at some point you're going to want to sell the Highland property, or are you going to turn that one into a rental property? Well, no, I'm going to need to sell it. Okay. And are you hoping to go ahead and find a property before you put it on the market? Or are you going to just, you know, and I can start asking better questions now because I identified that key piece. And when I'm asking better questions, I'm having better conversations and I'm establishing better rapport. And the result will be loyalty and a closed transaction, and maybe two in this scenario.
Yeah. And there are a lot of the people, unless you're a mainly first-time buyer, most people, you know, that are buying own a home, unless they're first-time buyers, right? Or relocating. And another thing to ask is, hey, Greg, are you currently renting or do you own a home? So it's much better than, hey, do you got a home to sell?
Yeah.
The minute you say you got a home to sell, like Greg says, they're going to put up, they're like, oh, this person wants to sell my home. Yeah.
I still urge everybody to just say, hey, I'm just kind of curious, what do you currently own right now? That gets the answer. That gets the answer of whether you're renting or you're an owner or a renter. So, like, are you an owner? Are you a renter? Like, our guard's up. It's like, oh, don't answer that question because there's going to be another question.
Say it again, Greg, so they can write it down.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, Jeff. I mean, where exactly do you own now? Okay.
I just wanted you to do that again so they can get that. They can write it down and not have to keep hitting replay.
And it's not, well, where do you own now? And what is your social security number? And what is this? Remember, you gotta, the communication, if what I want people to really get from this is not the words, where do you own now? Because that would be the words, right? So if the words really matter, then I could say, where do you own now? You'd hang up on my ass if I did that, right? So here's where the communication comes in. It's like, you know, Jeff, you know, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, you know, where do you own right now?
Oh, Highland Park.
Like, I really care. Like, I'm really interested. Like, I'm leaning in. Like, I'm really interested in you, right? That's communication versus words.
Yes, how you're saying it, enthusiastic, being there, not talking to yourself about how horrible this lead is. And, you know, all leads suck. And you're like, when you're thinking all these leads suck and you're going through the calls, you're going to talk to them like they suck.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is good.
All right. Any other questions there, Frank? Or are we ready to wrap it up? Or
well, yeah, there's a good one that came in. If you're calling 15 times, texting, emailing, messaging, is it just like 15 times, hey, do you want to buy? Do you want to sell? Hey, do you want to buy? Hey, do you want to sell? Hey, do you want to buy? Hey, do you want to sell 15 times?
Yeah.
No, he's talking 15 attempts sometimes to get a contact. You're talking about when you're following up then, right?
No, this would just be the attempts trying to.
Oh,
yeah, I get it.
You're not leaving a message every time.
It could be either or. I think
I get the question. I understand, Frank, and that's a phenomenal question. And I'm very clear on this because this is what we've had to figure out. This is the kind of the code that we had to crack internally. It's like, okay, when you're making all these attempts, how do you make these attempts when you're and still appear to be sincere, still appear to be human? And so what we've done is we've really like drawn it out and whiteboarded this. And it's like, let's just say I do my double dial, okay? Then I text. Well, if I just double dialed, then the text would say something like, and I don't have it off by memory, but it would say something like, hey, I just dialed your number, tried to reach you regarding blank. You know, please, do you have a moment to talk now, or what time would be better later on today? Okay, so now I've made 3 attempts. I did a double dial to a text, and the text referenced the dial. Okay, then I might have an email go out. Let's just say I got an email set up, or an email goes out in 25 minutes from now. And that email would then, when it goes out, it would know that I just did that, because that would be email number one. So email number one was built with the consideration that email number one is really the fourth contact or fourth attempt, and the third attempt was a text, and the second attempt was a dial, and the first attempt was a dial. So the email say, hey, I'm sure you're busy. I attempted to reach you a few times by phone. I sent you a text. Here's some information I want you to consider. Give me a call when you have a minute. Then I might make another phone call and leave a voicemail message, and then that voicemail just builds off of this. And we're like real humans, like not boilerplate, just put some stuff in there and feel like, okay, this is not a touch. It's just not a touch campaign. This is an attempt campaign, not a touch campaign. A touch campaign is you just want to touch them, just touch them. Hey, here's a note card. Here's a recipe. Here's some seeds to put in your garden. Those are all touches. None of that stuff. And we're not sitting here saying, hey, I want to sell you something. We're saying, like, if I was to text you twice in the same day, then in the second text, I says, hey, I'm not sure if you're receiving my text. Did you get my last text? That might be my second text. I could do a double dial, a text, an email, another call with a voicemail, and then a text. And my next text by the end of the day, hey, I tried to reach you a few times. I even sent you a text. Are you receiving my text? Like that right there will likely get a response. Are you receiving my text? Because they almost start to feel like, oh gosh, I'm kind of being a jerk because I'm avoiding this person. And now they're asking me if they're receiving my text. I'm not sure if they actually know that I'm receiving their text or not know. So I'll just go ahead and text them. Yeah, I got it. And then usually they would text back and say something like this. Yeah, I'm getting your text. I've just been slammed at the office. I'll try to reach you later. And now we start the game. Does that answer the question, Frank?
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, and that, because that was a brilliant question, whoever asked that, because that us playing with that and figuring out what's the proper way to build that out in our as a strategy had a significant impact on our conversion.
That would be a contact attempt campaign. So you got to make sure when you do finally make contact, you kill that thing.
Yes.
You go in and you stop it. Otherwise, you're going to look like a fool.
Yeah.
And most CRMs, when you're in there, once you make contact, you can just stop the program they're on. Just click a button.
Yes.
I know you can in the Real Geeks, but I think most
and a single agent, like that would be an idea of like, a single agent could do exactly what I said. It's just like maybe the single agent, Frank, needs to take a little checklist, and like every lead, they put everything down. Now I'm old school, so I like paper. I mean, I got paper everywhere here that I write notes on, but maybe just building a little checklist where you have a lead and you say, here's 15 attempts that I'm going to make on this particular this lead, and then as soon as you get the lead, then make those first 3 attempts, double dial text, and then later on pick up that sheet and keep checking off all those. Okay, I just did attempt number 7. I just did attempt number 8. Watch when you get down. You only have to get to around attempt number 8 or 9 before it's done, and you've got them. But that might be a simple way to do it as a single agent. Is I don't even know if automation is necessarily the most important thing. Right now, it could be humanation. I don't know what that is, but just like humans, people actually doing the work.
But yeah, and all the Real Geeks customers watching this, they can do exactly what Greg's talking about within Real Geeks, except for the phone calls and the voicemail. They're going to have to manually do those, but they can schedule a to-do to do that in the workflow. Any other quick questions there, Frank?
No, man. I think we've revealed a lot of the truth about lead quality. Where do you see what's going to happen in 5 years, Greg? What is it, 2024? 2024, the state of the real estate agent with lead generation.
I think the real estate agent is still going to be in business. I think the real estate is going to be agent is going to be extremely significant, and I think the real estate agent is going to have to learn how to survive off of lower margins. I think our margins are really in it, and it's not because of compression of commissions. It's not that. It's that somebody else is having to do our job, and they want to get paid a premium for it. So now, like there's a new line item in the formula for actually going from GCI to actual net commission, It used to be you have, you know, if you're with a franchise, you have your gross commission, and then you may have some sort of royalty fee. And then at some company, you may have your gross commission, and you may have some sort of, fee from the technology fee or this fee. And then you have your commission split. Okay. Again, you have a royalty fee and then a commission split. Well, now what's going to happen, I believe and it's already happening, is that a higher volume of the business that we're going to be doing is now going to come with a 30 to 35% referral fee. So now we got gross commission, and then we've got our fees for a company, and then you've got your 30 to 35% going out to a lead company, and then you have your commission split, and then you have your net. So when you look at the real estate sales commission could stay the same, but 30 to 35% is probably going to go off the top to these companies that are doing our job. Now we say, oh no, I'm not going to be with a, you know, I'm not going to pay referral fees. Okay, you watch. Well, I'm referral based. Okay, here's my prediction. Your centers of influence is more loyal to Amazon than they are you. Okay, they're more loyal to Amazon than they are you. They let Amazon come to their door multiple times a week. They'd get pissed if you came to their door multiple times a week. The trust factor is so high. Now, why do I say this? Amazon probably has one of the bigger databases in the world. And they already get some sort of compensation by having plumbers and this and that on their website. Well, you know, I don't know that they've done it yet, but we've all heard rumors that they'll be in the real estate space at some time. So I do believe that everybody that's in your database right now is probably in Amazon database. So what's going to happen when Amazon says, hey, get $500 Amazon dollars by using one of our preferred real estate agents? And then they could even say, well, hell, you can even pick your own real estate agent and run them through our system, and we'll give you a $500 Amazon credit. And then all of a sudden, guess what they do to the agent? Now your past client centers of influence is coming to you because they want that $500 gift certificate, and now you got to pay 30% to actually do a deal with them so they can get the $500 damn gift certificate. Our margins are going to shrink, mark my word.
All right, on that, we got to go. Thanks a lot for sharing all that insight, Greg, and thanks, Frank, for helping host these, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.